Boss introduces new time tracking tool to avoid time manipulation, backfires on him, by user Shellyfish04. I work in a small startup company of around 12 people. It's a very good atmosphere in the office and everyone pulls their weight and is super motivated. However, our boss likes to micromanage us, even though he has no expertise in any of our fields, marketing/design/accounting/. Especially us in marketing and design suffer a lot from that, since he will make changes to our strategies/posts/website, sometimes without telling us, and then gets upset at us when the customer feedback is bad and we aren't reaching our predicted goals. So recently, he told us that the reason he thinks we aren't seeing enough results is because we are manipulating our hours and not actually putting in the work we should. Until then we each wrote down our hours manually in an Excel sheet, but with the new time tracking tool, he would see how long we were working down to the minute. We also could only log in on our desk PCs, and previously approved home office devices, but not mobile because if you are not at your desk, it is not work. After our initial shock passed and our boss left for the day, our manager called for a meeting and we came up with a plan. We would do as he says, in the most just following the rules way possible. After about a week, our boss was so fed up with this, he gave us the option to clock in from our mobile devices, so he could get a more immediate response to his questions. However, this of course led to us clocking in ways more frequently, since, as I said, he likes to micromanage, and is therefore asking a lot of questions. I'm happy to report that as of 2024, we have abolished the system again and regained most of our independence, and even though our boss is still pissed about how we exploited the system, it brought the team closer together and hopefully taught him a lesson. Can't take a week off? How about a decade? By user Peter3571. A decade ago my primary school had a lollipop man to help the kids cross the road. For anyone not in the know, they wear high-vis and hold a stop sign. He was nearly 80, and had come out of retirement many years earlier to help out since nobody else wanted to do the job. He and his pensioner friends would go for an annual holiday together, and it was the same time each year so he could give the council plenty of notice. The council outright told him no because it's in the middle of term time, refused to compromise and let anyone else cover for a week, and said if he goes ahead then he shouldn't even think about returning to work when he gets back. Well, they overestimated how much he wanted that job. He went on his holiday, didn't come back to work, and that stick up the council's arse meant that instead of being without a lollipop man for a week, they've been without ever since. Management insists on employees telling people where they're from for conversation purposes. I decided it was a matter of opinion, by user dry_necessary4526. I work at a small casino and last year management decided all employees had to wear name tags with their hometown on them as conversation starters with guests. As you can probably imagine, a lot of us had issues with that, but there was no arguing with them. Some people tried to not put their hometown down but managers wrote it in for them to the best of their memories. A few people tried to be smart and write down places like Nunya, Peru, or Hell, Michigan. Those also got vetoed. I, however, being a bit more creative than most and being a big horror fan, as well as a writer, chose a hometown that wouldn't raise any eyebrows unless you were actually paying attention. My choice actually slipped through the cracks, although it is certainly a conversation starters if you know. My name tag lists my hometown as Derry, Maine. Anyone want a balloon? You're not allowed to leave, you have to testify as a witness, by user comply_maliciously24. This just happened about an hour ago, but here's the backstory. It's a long one. About 2.5 years ago my apartment was broken into during a camping trip. Some things were stolen, including multiple firearms. A year and a half ago one of my firearms was found with some kids selling crack in a small city right over the border of the next state. The plea deals fell through and the girl the cops had initially mentioned was going to trial. I receive a letter in the mail telling me of the court date and location, but it is explicitly not a summons. Whatever, I want my gun back sooner than later, so I go. Both the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor are out sick, one with COVID. They make us hang around for a while for no reason and eventually I just leave. They didn't like that, but whatever, being there was legally voluntary. I tell them they can mail me the new date and I'll deal with it then. 3 weeks go by and here we are this morning. I get home from work and I check my mail. There are 2 letters, one for the first girl, and another's for a guy I know just as an accomplice from the updates about the girl. His trial is today, and hers is tomorrow. I go to the courthouse 40 minutes away and let them know I'm here, everything is fine. They bring in the jury pool and spend 2 hours getting down to 7 jurors. The trial starts and we're just patiently waiting, 4 cops and 1 other civilian victim/witness. They tell us no worries, this will be super quick, they basically just need to ask if it's the firearm I reported stolen and I'll be on my way. They call in all the cops, who are getting paid this whole time, first. It's now 1 p.m. I've been up for 24 hours, on 3 hours of sleep the day before, after working a 12+ hour overnight shift. My entire body is cramping, I'm super uncomfortable, I'm exhausted. I last ate at 10 p.m. The assistant district attorney comes out and tells us they're taking an hour lunch break. I tell her I can't stay and I need to leave. She tells me I'm not allowed to, I already presented as a witness to the judge, I'd been summoned, I hadn't, they can charge me with this or that. One of the cops tells me they could detain me, the judge could order me, after I point out I haven't been summoned and again, this is voluntary. Basically they try and strong-arm me when all I want to do is go home. I point out that this guy isn't even who I was told was found with my gun. The assistant starts explaining how oh no, he totally was, I don't know who you heard that from, my local PD mentioned the girl by name originally, giving me all these details about the case. Then re-emphasizing, I really must stay, or I'll be charged with a crime. Don't worry though, we'll get you in right away, so you can leave soon, soon being in more than an hour, minimum. Here's the thing, the judge issued a sequester order first thing in the morning before jury selection. I say fine and wait. Here comes the single greatest act of malicious compliance I've ever committed in my life. All the attorneys come in, all the jury comes in. The judge makes me swear to tell the truth. I do. As soon as I finish, I blurt out the prosecutor broke the sequester and was telling me about the case during the break. Stop. Everyone, except the lawyers out. Including me. Eventually they bring just me back in. The judge again makes me swear to tell the truth, confirms I understand what's happening, tells me the importance of a fair trial, maybe don't witness tamper then, and explains that witnesses are never to volunteer information and are to only answer the questions. You've been summoned and it's a legal obligation. I let him finish and mention that I have never been summoned. He says then I'm ordering you, understood? Yes. Everyone comes back in. We all take our oaths again. The prosecutor that was threatening me starts asking questions. Here's the thing, I swore to tell the truth. I never agreed to tell it in a way that makes her life easier. She asks me some basic questions, name, age, what I do for work, etc. Then she gets into the actual questions, do I own weapons, did I report any stolen around this date, did I own one of this model, did I report this model stolen, etc. Is this your gun? It certainly looks like it. Did the XXXX police contact you when it was recovered? No, who did? Why police department, my local PD. Did they give you any details regarding how it was recovered? They said it was allegedly used in a crime by girls named Defense Objects, and the judge strikes that from testimony. By now the DA is realizing that she's giving me too much leeway and starts asking for yes or no answers, eventually asks if I'd recognize the serial number if I saw it, I tell her no, and that roughly sums up my questions from her. Then it's the defendant's turn, and it goes exactly as you would expect by now. I answer truthfully, but in favorable wording. You said it looks like your gun, but you can't confirm. I'd need to compare the serial number against the police report or the gun shop which still has it on record. Do you know who stole your firearm? No. Do you recognize ZZZZ? No. She asked a few more plausible deniability questions and then I was free to go. I can't wait to be back tomorrow for the girl's trial. I'll probably be much less malicious, but I know that I will be nervous when she sees me. Court is officially over, so the sequester order is no longer in effect. Good times, and don't worry, if I botched her case in this regard, that kid had more than enough charges, he should have taken the plea deal. Stack the pallets for high, by user expensive geometro. I used to work as a merchandiser for a national soda company about 10 years ago. One of the biggest problems we had would occur every holiday when stores had serious sales on soda, like getting 4 12-packs for $10. The problem is that there simply isn't enough room in the back room to store enough product on a really busy holiday like the 4th of July. Our sales reps would order way more stuff than we ever had room for, and then it was up to me on how to Tetris it all into the space for us in the back. The way it should be done is to send multiple orders on days like that as space becomes available, but of course that means sending drivers to stores multiple times, which costs time and gas. I had one store that had a really strict backroom manager with a no exceptions policy of pallets never being stacked more than 3 high. On this particular 4th of July we literally had twice as much product than what would fit. So I call my boss and tell him he needs to send a driver to buy back some of the excess load. He tells me to stack the pallets as high as the forklift will allow me to solve the problem. I remind him at this location I'm only allowed to stack 3 high. He tells me to figure it out. QMC. I know that the backroom manager will get lava level mad when he sees this, but it's the boss orders, so I am up to 5 high when the manager sees it and goes banshee apeshit on me. I tell him it's my boss orders. I finish stacking, with one tower now being 5 high, then start walking out as my shift is now done. The backroom manager tells me if I leave it like that we can kiss our account with the store goodbye. I leave. I get a call from my boss 30 minutes later that there is a driver on the way to do buyback and I need to go back to that store ASAP. I tell him my shift is done for the day and I have already returned the company truck and am on my way home to see some fireworks. It's 8 p.m. at this point. He tells me to turn around and go get it sorted. I tell him the only way I am going back is if I get double time for the entire day, about 14 hours at that point, plus a 10% raise. He yells at me that it's never going to happen, so I tell him that me returning to the store is never going to happen. I also tell him that if he changes his mind he can send an email to me agreeing in writing to my terms. I had other side gigs at the time and wasn't concerned at all about this job. I got an email 30 minutes later from my boss's boss agreeing to those terms. It is immediately followed by a phone call from him apologizing that I am needed and I need to go back to the store ASAP. My boss's boss also sent my boss who was already at home to help sort the mess out. Hearing him apologize to the backroom manager was gold. TLDR, my boss orders me to do something that made the store mad, almost cost them their contract with the store, and resulted in me getting double time for a day plus a permanent 10% raise. Oh, and boss also had to come sort the mess.